It is a truth universally known that as soon as you hit the film button, the building work starts. Hello my lovelies and welcome to my little cottage by the sea, the place where I love to stitch and craft my way to a vintage inspired and sustainable lifestyle. In today's video I wanted to share some of the lovely moments I've had so far this autumn. I've got some sewing, some knitting, some reading, some places that I went, some people that I've seen. I thought that might be of interest to you. So let's just start with a quick dining room update. So here we are in the dining room. It's still very messy and it probably doesn't look all that different, but I promise you it is. It's had a full several coats of paint on the walls and the ceiling, and I've still got a bit of woodwork to finish, but I've painted the beams back to black. They were a farrow and bull colour that matched the wall and the woodwork because I used to have my bridal studio in here. And it's a grade 2 listed building, so you are supposed to have the appropriate colour woodwork and paint, etc. You're quite limited with what you can do. But this here used to have a computer, but now there's a portrait of me done by my dear friend Katie Ray, who's an incredible artist. And you will be seeing a little bit of her wonderful exhibition that she had in Hastings. And I've been putting up my embroidered taxidermy, and I've painted this mirror, so painted that black and painted this really lovely braiding, oh hello, gold. There were loads of Halloween things on here, but that's gone now. This is a little painting by my lovely friend Marie-Louise Miller. We went to a sip and paint. I misread it as strip and pant, so quite good. It was actually sip and paint, and it was a Halloween one, and there was a skeleton, and she painted this and then gifted me the painting, which is really lovely because I have a penchant for skeletons. And we have all these things. These are my crow wings that I embroidered, and they've got antique Victorian jet beads on there, or faux jet, and they're made from strips of silk. And then there's a real butterfly and my little embroidered taxidermy moth. This is the Sussex emerald. They're very, very rare, and they only live in Dungeness, which is the only desert in Europe. So I did this little kind of stump work moth. I'm not keen on this placement here, so I'm gonna move that somewhere else, but that's what it's looking like. And then I had a lovely time organising my dresser, which was great fun. Still a few bits to put away and sort out. And then I've been making skirts for my lampshades. So I've started doing little crafty things, sewing things for the house. So I'm happy to share some of those projects with you if you're interested. Plant, and then everything else is still work in progress. There's Doris, my faux flamingo. Then my gallery above the ingle nook, still got bits and pieces to put up. But the idea is, as I'm Swedish death cleaning in here, let me turn this round. So, oh, hello again. So I've got this big dresser here, and what I want to do is put all my art and crafty stuff in there, so I can literally be stitching my way at the top of the house and crafting my way in here. And I've also started painting the table. That was one of the things I wanted to do. My fringe is really not working today. This is just one of those things. Anyway, so crafting my way down here, stitching my way at the top, and I will update you with more progress. But as I said, if you want to see some sort of more home crafty things, home sewing things, just let me know in the comments, because I've got loads of stuff I'm doing down here and it may be of interest to you. I'm in the sewing room at the very top of my little cottage by the sea, and I'm waiting for some videos to render. It seems that my whole life is a circle going, waiting for rendering, but I'm working on something that I'm not filming, so I thought I'd share it with you here. I've been rewatching for quite a lot of times the Gentleman series on Netflix. I really love the clothes that Susie Glass is wearing in the series, and I just am obsessed with this idea of a cape. So last Christmas my kiddo requested a cape, a Hocus Pocus cape, and I made it, and I really enjoyed the project. And I've also got this cape in my stash. So they're very, very similar patterns. When you look at the sort of the pattern pieces, they are pretty similar, slightly different in that this one has got seams, style lines rather than darts at the shoulder. So I thought I'd show you where I am. I've got this really beautiful wool cashmere that's got this sort of texture on it. It's a bit fuzzy. So this is the front here, and the arm goes in here like thus, and it's got a collar, and I'm doing the under collar in a little scrap of my favourite honeymoon print 1930s Liberty fabric. And then I wanted to do a detachable fur collar, so this does come with the pattern for it, and I was looking for faux fur, I couldn't find any, and I decided to look on Vinted for a fur collar of some kind that I could, like a stoly thing that I could cut up. But I actually found a fur collar. It was something like £2.50. So this would go on here like this when it's done, and it has got buttons. So I am going to be using, not that I can find right now when I need them, I am going to be using some really beautiful 30s glass buttons in this, because you can't wash this. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to line it in. I think it's just going to be white or ivory silk, because I happen to have quite a lot of that left over from making bridal things. But this is something that I am working on. Total impulse, total inspiration from The Gentleman, but we'll go with all of my vintage inspired and Vampire's Wife dresses. So I shall be working on that, and I will share that with you, I'm sure, at some point in the future. But I was really pleased with this little doodad here. I thought I would just talk to you about books. I finished The Historian and I really enjoyed it. I felt like the end could have been a little bit more developed. It sort of ended really suddenly, but overall really enjoyed it. And then on an impulse, for whatever reason, I bought Starvaker, Andrew Michael Hurley. One of the things that I'm really getting into and I really want to expand my knowledge about is folk horror, and especially as I live in an area where there's quite a lot of folky stuff goes on. So really loving the idea of throwing myself into a folk lore, folk horror, folk pool of wonderment. But I read this and it is one of the best books I have ever read, but a bit too scary to be reading before you go to sleep. So I had to sort of go to public places and read it, and I think the end paragraph of this book is going to stay with me forever. So if you're not familiar, it's set sort of in the 70s really, in an English village in the north of England, in Lancashire. And it's the story of Richard and Juliet Willoughby, and he's inherited his family home from his father, who went mad there, and his mother died a bit tragically, a bit mysteriously. And there's this acre of field that used to have a big oak tree, which was the gallows tree, which was where they would hang people, and it was destroyed and nothing has ever grown in the field. And it becomes increasingly apparent through the course of the book that all is not well there, and the couple have had a tragedy. Their son, their little boy, passes away, but the story builds quite slowly and it sort of starts to reveal all these moments. So what I found was these scary bits in it, I didn't even realise they sort of crept up on me, and then all of a sudden I had goosebumps and I was scared. But it's so well written and original as a story. Now, I don't really read much horror, so to say it's original, I don't know, but it is so good. I read it in a couple of days. Brilliant. And off the back of that, even though I've got a huge pile of books to read, I went and got another one, which is Barrowbeck, Andrew Michael Hurley. I'm just a couple of chapters in because I'm a bit too scared to read this before I go to sleep, and I do the majority of my reading when I go to bed. So I will go to bed early so that I can sit and read for a good few hours, because I'm much better at sort of getting into a big old chunk of reading time. And this is basically about a remote valley, again up north, Yorkshire, Lancashire, and each chapter seems to be a moment in time. So there's sort of the first chapter's Celtic, the second chapter's the 1400s, kind of witchy stuff going on, and it's all set in this one area but through time, and things are definitely a little bit off key there. So nothing particularly scary as yet, but definitely a bit eerie. Very clever to write a book in that way, where you're travelling through time through each chapter, and each chapter's obviously telling you something about the story of whatever this is. And the editions are really, really beautiful. So they've got these incredible illustrations on them. So really recommend this author. I'm just gonna read everything that he's done. And also there is a film of Starvaker with Matt Smith and Wilfred Clark, Doctor Who, and what's her face in Rings of Power. Can't remember the name, but Kate Blanchett played her in the Lord of the Rings films. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. Hello. A really lovely supporter on Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, basically a supporter of the work that I do, very kindly said she wanted to gift me this, that I was under no obligation at all to share it or, you know, do anything with it, but I was so excited to receive it. I don't receive many gifts actually, so I thought it'd be really nice to open this. The company she has is called Small Flock Yarns. Oh look, that's so pretty, that colour. Here, it's open. Do excuse the opening noises that I'm making. So she really kindly sent me this fabulous yarn, Small Flock yarn, lovingly raised, sheared and spun in Sussex, UK. Hello from the flock. From pasture to project, our yarns begin with a small happy flock of sheep. Each fleece is sheared by hand and spun locally into soft, sustainable yarn full of character and provenance. Thank you for being part of the journey. Oh, it's so lovely. This is 100% British wool from Kent, Romney, which is just over the border in the next county. This is a double knit, batch number 1. How gorgeous, with a lovely tote bag there, and then something in here. Let's have a look. It says do not bend, which is, oh how lovely, look. Ah, I really hope you like the kit. Have a great autumn and happy knitting, Natalie from Small Flock Yarns. How gorgeous is that? Ah, sheep. Some postcards of a very contented local sheep, and then a pattern for the silver birch cowl. How pretty is that? I've really got my knitting mojo back, so this will be lovely. There we are. So it looks like that. There's a tutorial, which is good because sometimes I need a bit of help. So there's the pattern and the wool and a project bag to keep it in. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you so much, Natalie and Small Flock Yarns, for this beautiful gift. I shall really enjoy knitting that over the next few months. I'm sitting in my bedroom and I've got a ghost just here, just off camera. Here we are. And I'm going through my knitwear because I packed it all away for the Swedish death cleaning. And what's been really lovely getting all my knitwear out, winter things out, it's like meeting old friends again. And I just knitted these. I'll just show you quickly. It wasn't my intention to show you, but how fab. It's a faux fur knitting wool. I'll do something about it. I'll put it up somewhere. But how cool are these? They make me feel like monsters. A little bit Enid from Wednesday. Those are really good, really sweet to wear. But I'm actually going through to find all my vintage tassel berets that I have knitted over time. Look, I've got a stripy one that I made for the Tim Burton exhibition. I just put a stalk on that so you can have fun playing around with these. And I'm particularly looking at my vintage tassel berets, a cream one. I have so many of these. This pattern, which you can get from my shop, the vintage tassel beret, it's based off of a 1930s pattern, and it means a huge amount to me. Look, sparkly. This one's cat's tongue, goes with my cat's nose and ears and tongue. It's very special to me. When my late mother was at the end of her life, I went and stayed with her and cared for her, and we would go to charity shops. It was something she loved, I loved, treasure hunting, and we found a little pattern. It was this disintegrating old pattern, barely held together, about to disappear into little whispers and go off into the universe. But we bought it and sat there knitting it, and it reminds me, this pattern, of the time. Now I don't have that pattern, and my mother wrote it down for me, the recipe, and I lost it. I couldn't even find it, so I had to remember this pattern, and it was there in my brain, and I just loved knitting it, so I put it out because I thought if I really love knitting it, and it's just got a really pleasing little spiral and I love the tassel, I thought other people would. And that's basically my philosophy for everything that I do. It has to come from my heart, it has to come from love. It's never a sort of calculated thing. I just can't work like that as a person. So this particular pattern, which was one of my first things that I put out, just means the absolute world to me, and I'm getting them all out. I've got other berets as well. There's another one of these. I have a whole box of these because it's like my comfort knit, and it connects me to my mother and it connects me to love. And then when Loki was very poorly, my lovely old cat, who you may remember if you've been here for a while, he was very poorly and he just wanted to sleep and snooze on my lap. Red one. I would just sit there knitting them, because you can knit them in a couple of hours, and they take, depending on meterage, 1 double knit ball of wool. And yeah, so they're quite fun to do quite quickly, like this one I did for the Tim Burton exhibition. Obviously the weather's turning and I need my accessories, but I wanted to gather all these together because there may be something quite wonderful on the horizon to do with this, possibly, and a certain game show that has just started in the UK, which is called Game of Wool. So there may be some kind of something, can't say anything more than that at the moment. My vintage tassel beret might be having a little moment of fame, so we shall see. But I wanted to just get them all out. I've got more, but aren't they luscious? So this is where I work. This big dining room table is basically my desk office, which I find really an efficient way to work. I really love just laying everything out on the table and just cracking on with Deighton Atelier. And recently I have been really reflecting on how I want to move things forward and what the future looks like. I've been teaching in real life workshops and having the best time, and they're booking up so quickly. I almost don't have time to put them online and market them. There's such a big waiting list for them, which is just so wonderful. So if you are one of those lovely people who find yourself in my classroom and are not traumatized by the experience, I am so thankful that you are there, and we have just such lovely fun, laughter, working through various projects. So it's just been a real game changer for me, and it's really made me reflect on my practice as a pattern cutter, because I don't do commissions anymore and I'm not teaching on degrees and with sort of high level students, let's say, and that really can impact your sort of skills, you know. Always want to go skills. It can really do that. So it's helped me to formulate how I'm moving forward with Patreon and just in general my goals, what I want to achieve. And there's some really exciting stuff coming to Patreon and just in general, and just as sort of making everything make a bit more sense and a bit more manageable for me, because I do find that I get to burn out a lot, and I also have to manage an autoimmune thing, which is, you know, quite tricky. Those of you who have the same experience, I know you understand. I'm very nearly at 11,000 subscribers, which completely blows my mind. Huge heartfelt hugs and thanks and appropriate kisses for those of you who do subscribe and have followed along for such a long time on this journey, and anyone new, anybody supportive. I'm so proud of this community, because in general it is a really lovely, kind, compassionate, uplifting place to spend time, and those people who are not a kindred spirit, are not of that same kind frame of mind, don't really fit in here and don't really have a place. So it's really heartening to me to know that there are so many really lovely people around the world, and we have to hold on to that in these crazy times. So if you haven't subscribed, please do, because it really does help me build this channel And I really couldn't be doing the content that I actually do without the incredible support of my Patreon members. Some of them have been with me from day one, and I just absolutely love each and every one of them. It's a small community, but it's a wonderful community. And if you are interested in vintage dressmaking and pattern cutting and fashion history, all of that is there on my Patreon. And here on YouTube, I'm going to carry on sharing my creative adventures with a slightly different mix of videos, I think, because it's just time to move forward. I'm really loving these moments videos, these vlog style videos that just share some of the things that I'm enjoying. That it's a real joy to be able to share that with you. So I'm going to carry on with those, and there's going to be a lot of the other stuff that I still do, but for the main sewing content and pattern cutting, Patreon is the place to be. Thank you so much for spending the time with me here in my little cottage by the sea. I hope you've enjoyed some of these moments, and I'll put any links in the show notes below should you want to go and find out more. And definitely get yourself a copy of Starvacre, because it's such a phenomenally good book. Wherever you are in the world, my lovelies, I hope you're keeping very safe and very well, and I will see you next time. Bye.